Here we're going to talk about weighted averages, and this question was submitted by one of the viewers. And so the question is, it's a word problem. Lewis entered a cooking competition. His final scores were calculated by using a weighted average of 75% for taste, 25% for presentation. He received a score of 84 for taste, 68 for presentation. What was his final score? And so as always, in these word problems, make sure you read them, but you pull out the relevant information, because there's a lot of extraneous information that you don't need, and it's almost distracting, that he's in a cooking competition, whatever. So I've underlined the important parts in order to calculate this. So we should know how to do just a regular average or mean. If you don't know how to do that, then you need to watch the video on Facebook that was posted on October 31st of 2015 called mean, M-E-A-N, that's the other word for average. So that's October 31st of 2015. And so let's just forget about this problem for a second and just say we're just taking a regular mean, regular average. If we got an 84 and a 68, we know that to calculate the mean, you add them up, so we'd get 152, and then you divide by the number of things that you have. So here we have 2. So it's 152 divided by 2, which is 76. So if we were just looking for the mean, not the weighted average, so we're not doing this problem yet, I'm just going to show you, this would be the average if these two things were equal. Because when you're doing a normal mean, a normal average, you really are weighting them, but you're weighting them equal. Because if you think about what did we do? If we write it like this, 84 plus 68 divided by 2, that's what we did, right? 84 plus 68 and then divided by 2. You can write this fractional statement as 1/2 times 84 plus 1/2 times 68. If you take 1/2 times 84, you're going to get 42. 1/2 times 68 is going to be 34. And again, you're going to end up with 76. So you can write this as, you just take this 1/2 through each one of them, 1/2 times 84 plus 1/2 times 68. And so here we're just doing the regular mean, but we're weighting each of them by a half. They're both equal, or 50%. So really when you're doing a regular mean, I just want to get this concept across, you are doing a weighted average, but you're weighting all of them equally. Similarly, if we had 3 numbers, 3 plus 4 plus 5, then we would divide it by 3 to get the average. That's the same as 1/3 times 3, 1/3 times 4, 1/3 times 5, and adding those and adding them up. That would be your normal average. So here we're really kind of doing the same thing, so it's the same concept, except we're not equally weighting them. We're weighting them differently. Here we're saying that your 75% of your score will be based on taste. 25% will be based on presentation. So taste is much more important than presentation, because this counts for 75%. So the way that you're going to solve this is, first, the concept you have to know is how to change percentages to real numbers or decimal numbers. And so if you don't know how to do that, you need to watch the video on percentages that was posted July 29th of 2014. So over a year ago, July 29th of 2014, there's a video on percentages, because we can't multiply percentages. And so I'll quickly go over this, but you need to watch the video if you don't know how to do this. When you have a percentage, to change it into a real number, you take the decimal point, so 75. Remember, every number, whole number, has a decimal point, and there's zeros that extend out forever. So you take the decimal point and you move it to the left 2 spots. So the decimal point will be in front of the 7. So 75% is the same as 0.75. So you just take the decimal point and move it to the left 2 spots. So 25%, we take the decimal point and we move it to the left. So 25% is 0.25. That we can multiply. We can't multiply percentages. We have to change them to these decimal numbers. So how are we going to solve this problem? Remember when we were doing a normal average, you could just multiply the first number times its weight. The first one we did was 1/2, and then the second one by its weight, which was 1/2. That was in the first problem we did. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the first number and multiply it by its weight, and then add it to the second number that's multiplied by its weight. So the way that we solve this problem is if it's 75% for taste, and he got an 84 for taste, so that's the score, 84 times its weight. And remember, we can't multiply percentages, we multiply the decimal numbers. Plus 68 times its weight. So you put that in your calculator. And so 84 times 0.75 is 63. 68 times 0.25 is 17. We add those two together and we get 80. So the answer to this question is 80. That's the final score. So again, remember, you just take the percentage, make it into a decimal, multiply that times that score, then add the percentage for this times that score, and then you add the two together. I'm going to do one more example that has more than 2 numbers just to show you how to do that. So I'm going to take a pause and put that question up on the board. So here we have another question, and this should be somewhat familiar because a lot of times our grades in school are based on a weighted average. So here we have a student's final grade is based on the following categories. So tests are worth 40%, final exam 25%, quizzes 25%, and homework is 10%. So for all the grades you get throughout the semester, your tests are weighted the most, so those are the most important. Your final exam that you take and your quizzes are equally weighted, and your homework is has the least weight on it on your final score. So you have a student who earned the following scores. In tests, they got an 83. Final exam, a 75. Quizzes, a 90. Homework, 100. So what is the student's overall grade? So again, we're just going to do the same thing, where you're going to take the item and multiply it by its weight, and then we're going to add all of them up. So we'll start with tests. So tests, we got an 83. The weight is 40%. Remember, you have to write that as a decimal. You don't put 40 in there. So again, if you don't know how to do this, watch the video. But 40%, you move the decimal over 2 spots and you're going to get 0.4. That's how you write 40% as a real number. Then we're going to add final exam. We got a 75 times 25%. That is written as 0.25. Quizzes, we got a 90. 25%. Homework, we got 100. 10%, 0.1. So now we just put this in your calculator. 83 times 0.4 should give you 33.2. 75 times 0.25, 18.75. 90 times 0.25, is 22.5. 100 times 0.1 is 10. We add all those up, and the average is 84.45. So for all the scores, the weighted average and their overall grade is going to be 84.45.